Welcome to Kapeleris Ultimate Talk TV. Be inspired, informed, and elevate your mind one step at a time. Talking about life, real estate, business, and beyond. Your host, author, speaker, real estate broker, Carmela Zita Kapeleris.
Welcome to another episode of Kapeleris Talk TV. We have a very special guest today. He is one of Canada's greatest superstars, the drummer and vocalist of the multi-platinum award-winning group Triumph. Here he is, Gil Moore. Let's take a look at the video first. Here is Gil Moore from the band Triumph and the CEO and president of Metalworks Studio. Hi Gil, welcome.
Hi Carmela, it's nice to be here.
Thank you. I'm so proud to have you here. Thanks so much for being here. Let's talk about your early days. How did you get started and how were you discovered? You're from Mississauga, correct?
Yeah, right around the corner. I moved here when I was 7 and like a lot of kids, just playing drums in my parents' basement with the neighborhood kids and forming little bands that never went anywhere. And
yeah, wow. And how did you get discovered?
well, I wouldn't say that we were ever really discovered. Most of my early bands, floundered. When I was a hockey player, so I was actually more interested in hockey for a while than music, and then golf got in the way. But by the time I got in my teens and started to figure it out a little bit, the music business appeared to be really tough.
Yes.
Triumph started when I was in my early 20s, and it was kind of a completely different, kettle of fish, because all of us had played in bands and we all had a bit of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And we really got discovered in Texas, strangely
Really?
enough. Yeah, our first album got played in Texas, and it kind of spread from San Antonio to some other cities, and that got us going down the United States.
Wow, that's amazing. So that was with Rick Emmett and Matt Levine, right?
Mike Levine.
Oh, Mike Levine. Okay, you were the trio, and somehow your music got onto the radio, and they discovered it in the States, in Texas.
Yeah, it was before the internet, so it's not the way Biebs did it or Drake did it. It had to be spread with terrestrial radio, and that's how it was for us. Our record was just available as an import in the United States at that time. It was before we got our deal with RCA that kind of launched us nationally down there. But that's the way it was back then.
Okay, well, you had a really unique sound. Like, it was great. Why did the band break up, actually?
I think everything just has its time. The reasons were different for all of us. Rick had an idea that he wanted to go solo. For me, my father passed away shortly before I left the band. So, it kind of took a lot of wind out of my sails at the time. And I really wanted to be here in Mississauga and be with my family more than anything. And the touring, as you can imagine, really takes a toll.
Yeah.
It's just nonstop, and you spend all that time in hotels and airports. So it was just time to move on with my life.
So how long were you actually together?
We performed for 15 years. We did 12 national tours through Canada and the United States. So it seemed like a lifetime, but that's how long it was.
What were some of the most famous places that you played during the height of your career?
Well, we played pretty much all the major concert venues in Canada and the United States. Here in Toronto, of course, it was Maple Leaf Gardens before the ACC was built. We played Canada Jam at Mosport Racetrack, which was a big show here in Canada. In the United States, again, we played Nassau Coliseum and Meadowlands Arena in New York, and Los Angeles Sports Arena, and all the way through the Midwest in the big buildings. Probably the show that was a highlight for us was the US Festival in 1983, which was in California.
Right. And you had a reunion in 2008 in Sweden, correct?
We did.
Yeah,
we,
why
we,
Sweden?
We played 2 shows. We played a show in a festival in Sweden and a festival in the southern states. And really that was just, we wanted to get together again and, you know, be buddies and play some music and sort of relive the past a little bit. But there was really no desire to, you know, do a full tour or anything. So we picked those 2 festivals and we geared up for it. We rehearsed here at Metalworks and we had a lot of fun. Took our families. And,
oh, wow, that's wonderful. Were you huge in Europe too?
I wouldn't say we were huge in Europe. We spent so much time in the United States that, you know, in Europe it was more gradual. You know, to really be successful in those days, you got to remember, you know, this is prior to YouTube and the internet. You need to go and play for the people. And you know, we didn't cultivate the European market. So our records are distributed there still to this day. And you know, we have a lot of fans in Europe, but we sure didn't do what we needed to do, which is what we did in North America, which is tour, 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 tour. Right,
right. Can we look forward to another reunion?
I don't think so. But, you know, you never know, Carmela. I mean, Mike and Rick and I are good friends. You know, we go out for dinner a couple times a year and we talk about things. And, you know, I've said, gee, you know, if there was an opportunity, especially if it was a charity situation, you know, to maybe, you know, do a song or 2 to help out with something. You know, we're certainly not opposed to it. But, you know, Rick is very busy. He tours all over North America still. You know, Mike lives in Jamaica pretty much half the year now. He has a second house down there. So it's like it's not that logistically feasible with all I've got going on at Metalworks as well, you know. So you never know.
True. That's true.
We'll have to see.
What was the biggest challenge that you faced when you were, you know, so famous? Is there anything that you would do differently knowing what you know now?
A lot of things. You know, I think any young artist would probably realize when they look back on things, you know, if I could go back and any person that I wasn't nice to, I'd like to go back and be nice to them. And not that we weren't nice to everybody, but, you know, I think you tend to look at your shortcomings. The things that were, you know, when we got gold records or we hit a home run, they were all wonderful. We got a great scrapbook. But, you know, when you look back, you say, gee, I wonder if I had an influence that was, you know, right in front of me that I could have had that I didn't take to influence something positively. And I think those are things that, you know, as you get older, you know, you're a little less self-centered than you were when you were young. And that maturity makes you realize that when you're in a position of power, which you are when you're a successful artist, you know, you want to try to use that power in a positive way. So I think it's tough for all the young artists when they get out there, the pressure that they feel, especially from the record label and so on, and from the press and the media. So it's hard. If you're an athlete, the same thing applies. It's hard to always be, you know, top notch every single day. But you know, I'm proud of our career, and I'm proud of the way we impacted on the industry. But if I could go back, with all the wisdom that you have as you mature, I think I would go back and I would be like that little white angel over here on one corner who would always be urging the 3 of us, you know, maybe we should have gone and visited a few more hospitals, or maybe we should have, you know, tried to reach out a few more in a few more occasions where we had an opportunity. We're trying to make up for that, you know, now really, because we have more opportunities now to interact with different areas of the community. So we're all trying to do those things as much as we can.
Yeah, well, you know, rock and roll was different back in the 80s. You know, it's a totally different. It's totally different right now, I think. But the band Triumph and you yourself are very big on philanthropy. So what does giving back mean to you? You're doing that. You're making up for it now.
I guess it's just everybody, you know, needs to do whatever they can do, and that's different. You know, I mean, I've got a couple of friends that are billionaires, and they can do certain things, and I've got other people that, you know, you know, they're not wealthy at all, and yet they're all able to contribute. So I think musicians have a particular role because they have an influence, like I said earlier, and I think it's you know, the arts community in general. You know, it needs support. So that's one area where certainly musicians
Yes.
should be helping the arts community. And the arts community has matured quite a bit over the years, so there are more ways to help now than there ever were previously. But I just feel that, you know, in any society or in any community like we have here in Mississauga, everybody just needs to do what they can do and what they're comfortable with. And I know for us, any way we can use whatever the you know, the relationship we had with fans through Triumph, or whatever impact you know, Metalworks has been able to have with artists and so on, if we're able to figure out a way to leverage that, to help the not-for-profit sector or the charity sector, we're all ears, and we try to do what we can.
That's great, and we'll be back to talk more about that with Gil Moore after this commercial break. Welcome back. Right here again with me is Gil Moore. Let me ask you, many artists fluff away their money, but you invested your money into one of the busiest recording studios in Canada, recording artists like Drake, Jonas Brothers, Katy Perry. The list goes on and on. Can you share with us all these people that you have recorded in the past? How many years has Metalworks been in Mississauga?
We've been very fortunate that we've, you know, been able to attract a lot of great artists to the studio. You know, we were hidden for many years, I mean, to the public, because we didn't have signs on the roadway like we have now, because the company's expanded. But you know, the referral business is very much a network in music. So you don't really get those clients from advertising or anything like that. It's all word of mouth through producers and songwriters and record labels, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And who are some of the other artists that you can mention?
Well, you know, some of the famous ones we've had through there, and Prince was one that, you know, really attracted a lot of attention with Musicology, which he recorded there. Guns N' Roses, who I hear are making a comeback anytime soon. This year, we had quite a go with Guns N' Roses. Tom Cochrane and Anne Murray, two of my favorite Canadian artists.
Legends.
Rush. Work with Rush. Golly, there's been so many of them, Carmela.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We feel very blessed. I mean, recently we've had, you know, I guess the two most recent ones would be Justin Bieber and Drake that have been through, you know. So we love Drake. He's
I love Drake too. He's such a nice guy. And sponsoring the Raptors and everything like that. When did you open the studio, and why did you, as a real estate agent, I have to ask you, why did you choose Burnham Thorpe and Mavis in Mississauga and not somewhere downtown?
You know, that's a funny question, but really the location of the studio started with Triumph needing a home. And we rented a space when the band first started, shortly after the band started, over on Dunwin Drive. And you know, our lease ran out there, and really we came over to Burnham Thorpe and Mavis just because it was nearby. And it turned out to be a great location. You know, it's a hub, and it's close to Square One, close to the 403, of course, which wasn't built then. Close to the Great Rail Disaster, strategically located.
Were you around when the rail disaster?
I was evacuated.
It was 1989, and you had the studio then?
Yeah, I was evacuated, and from my house as well.
Actually, it was 1980.
No, I think
78.
it was 79, wasn't it?
78. Yeah, 78, 79.
Yeah. And, you know, business-wise, yeah, we would have been probably well advised to move downtown. But, you know, I'm a Mississauga boy, and I love it here. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to make them come to me. So.
And you opened a school now, Metalworks. Is there any expansion that you're thinking about in Toronto or other parts of Mississauga?
Well, I've been approached with a few concepts like that. My problem, Carmela, is that I feel like education is so critical that it's done at the highest level. And the minute that you have multiple campuses, you get into the complexities of trying to deliver your curriculum the same way, at the same quality level. So I've shied away from it. When I look at other schools and big public universities as examples, there's examples, you know, my daughter Holly's at U of T, and she attends UTM, whereas my older daughter, Lauren, attended downtown at the main campus. And they do a wonderful job, you know, at both locations. But a small private school,
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that we would be able to, this early in our development, deliver the same quality education at a second or a third location. So I've shied away from opportunities to expand beyond the one campus.
Right, right. And Mississauga is getting to be such a vibrant city anyways, so it's perfect to incorporate a school into your studio.
Well, we thought so. I mean, we were becoming a little frustrated with some of the graduates from other programs, and when digital technology started to weigh in very heavily into audio production, that's when we sort of saw an opportunity. We thought, well, we're at the leading edge. This is what we do. We have the engineers that are at the top of their game, so we developed our first curriculum internally at the studio, and of course we've expanded it because we now have 11 programs, but that was the genesis of the idea.
Yes, you have like 11 programs and over 300 students.
And
correct?
we're actually, we've just applied to the ministry for several new programs, so we're hoping we'll be up to the 13, 14, 15 range in 2016, 2017. And when you mentioned expansion, the one thing I should have mentioned is that we've developed some online educational products, and those are hopefully going to enhance the campus program. So we've launched a few courses. We don't have any approved programs yet, but we're growing that side of it.
Yeah, the music industry has changed so much since you were a band and touring. Yeah, the digital age, and then people can buy songs on iTunes. And so, how do you deal with the music industry today? It's totally different from before.
I think the main thing is you've just got to realize it's a younger generation and it's technology driven, and whatever you knew that was, 6 months ago or a year ago, have your eyes open because it's going to change. So the changes are coming fast and furious, and they're changes that are unprecedented. So we're going into areas that we didn't even realize we were going into. And the growth of the explosive growth of music is also unprecedented. With the smartphone, for example, which probably has more to do with just the growth of interconnectivity than anything that's come along since the internet. It's having a huge impact on music now as people are getting into using streaming services. So. Right. You really have, I read a lot of tech blogs, frankly, to stay up, and I have a lot of, stay up to date, and I have a lot of friends that are in the tech sector, and I really try to watch the tech sector as much as I'm watching the music industry, because they're now, kind of wet at the hip.
Right, right. What advice do you have for young musicians starting out today?
Be true to your music. I think there's been too much emphasis on, I'll call it the reality TV factor, where it's about how you look and about, how you handle yourself more so than are you really talented. And I think the public is crying out for people with real talent. When you, say, look at the explosive result with Adele, with her releases over the last few years, where I think, it's kind of a return to a simpler, more organic musical style that's blues-based.
Yeah.
That would be an example of it. Even we were talking about Drake, and I look at his music, and I was joking with one of his engineers the other day that, Drake, I feel there's this throwback to like Luther Vandross and people like that, and Marvin Gaye, whereas the other rappers, I don't feel that. So I think it's what sets Drake apart. So I think young musicians need to take a lesson maybe from Drake, maybe take a lesson from Adele, and realize, there's something that the public is finding with musicians that have, they're in the future, but they have a respect for the past, and maybe they've built on some of the history of some of the artists that have gone before, and taken it, with their signature into a new dimension.
Yeah. Let me ask you a couple questions before we have to go. This year you're receiving the Mississauga Board of Trade Lifetime Achievement Award. Congratulations. That's
Thanks.
awesome. And Well, you've received quite a few awards during your lifetime. I think you were inducted into the Musicians Walk of Fame 2012 with Oscar Peterson and Ronnie Hawkins. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes. And you also received the Marty Award, right? Congratulations on all that. So, having accomplished so much and had so many achievements in your life, and you're still quite young, what is there left for you to do or to achieve?
Well, you know, I'm going to talk about Hazel McCallion for a second because
okay, sure, she'll love
that's
that.
what just came to mind. Is you know, she's still, you know, active, and I was speaking to her the other day about retirement, and I just said I have no interest ever in retiring. You know, life is too much fun, and just the opportunity to try to contribute and help the next generation forward, which is why I love education so much, is a fabulous opportunity.
Right.
And every day I wake up, I'm energized. So going forward, what I look forward to is just keeping on, just like Hazel McCallion has done.
Yes.
And I love it here in Mississauga. We've got a great new mayor, Bonnie Crombie's doing a fantastic job.
Yes, she was on the show
and
too. She's
I can't
great.
wait
and
to
Hazel.
I
They're
can't wait
great.
to get to Metalworks every day and try to do our part in the community. So
Yeah, what happened to rock and roll?
that's a good question. Rock and roll has morphed quite a bit. You know, I see the country music sector now as being, you know, carrying the rock and roll torch a little bit. I think though, if you mean the hard rock side, I think the hard rock side will come storming back with a vengeance. It's just, you know, the bloom's off the rose for the moment, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Gil, we're going to wrap up this interview. I'm so happy that you joined us today. Before we go, tell us, what does Gil do in his spare time?
Well, I'm a golfer, so I play as much as I can. You know, I have a group of buddies that we don't take it too seriously, and there's a lot of humor, a lot of trash talk. But we have a heck of a good time playing. I'm a member at Credit Valley, just around the corner. So again, I'm lucky. Everything's close to my little hub here in Mississauga.
That's great. And you're close to the Rogers Studio too, so come
That's
back
right.
anytime you like. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.